Hey, all my Virgos. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your November 2024 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm talking about Virgo, I'm talking about Virgo rising as the first house and dictating the landscape of the chart. This is also applicable to Virgo sun, moon, and if you have a stellium in Virgo, this is good for you as well. When I refer to a day and a time, it's based on the Pacific time zone. So please adjust for your location. November, I don't need to tell anybody. It's been so cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs here in the world lately and the things that are going on. We all know we're in historic times, and November is no exception. In fact, while some may think it's a pinnacle, it is a new beginning of another whole chapter. So we're going to see Pluto finally move into Aquarius for the next 20 years. Going to change hugely the landscape of the world. We're going to see Saturn go direct in Pisces. We're going to see Mercury retrograde over the great attractor. And this is very powerful because Mercury rules the mind. So let me pull up the chart and let's get into it. Well, on the first of the month, we start with a new moon in Scorpio. Scorpio is your third house, the third house of how you think, how you speak, how you learn. Third house represents your childhood experience as you interacted in grade school, your siblings. I kind of always forget about the siblings part, but it's a very busy house. It represents a lot of activity. And the first four houses are really what shape you in your youth. And then you take this into into the second quadrant, the fourth, fifth, and sixth house, seventh house. So this is powerful because the new moon is giving you an opportunity to plant the seeds for new thoughts, for new potentials of even making money through your community, through your network, through how you're, some sort of strategic plan. When we look at the new moon, it is making a trine to Saturn in Pisces. Pisces is your seventh house of committed partnerships. Now, committed partnerships can be marriages, but oftentimes they can also be professional relationships, and even more so represent another level of work, because we see lawyers and peacemakers such as sheriffs and cops and people who implement justice or work within the justice system. So here I bring this up because Saturn is bringing up something, or has in its retrograde, that offers you, Virgo, an opportunity to, in a just and fair way, implement balance for you to assert through your third house energies of Scorpio, through potentially your network, an opportunity to make more money. Saturn builds money and Scorpio builds money. So this new moon is interesting. Now, for those of you that are not familiar what the phase of the new moon is, I'll just quickly say it's the darkest phase of the moon, where they come together literally like a man and woman and impregnate each other. And then we spend the next few months in faith as this whatever we have implemented or whatever we've conceived is gestated and then birthed. So it's a powerful energy cycle for the moon. And I always think that the moon is the most important energy because the moon is really the emotional body, and the emotional body speaks to the universe. Our words do not speak to the universe. Our vibration does, and that comes from our emotional body. Super powerful. Now, there is an aspect that's been going on. I'm only at the first day of the month, between Mars and Pluto. I did a separate video on this, and I actually did a separate video on the new moon. If you want to check that out, it'll be linked up at the end of the video. But this is really powerful because Pluto in Capricorn has the jump on Mars in Cancer. Pluto is powerful in Capricorn. It's not the most emotional sign. And Mars is in fall in Cancer. So it's been having to really endure the emotions you know, how it emotes. Cancer is a very nurturing sign. So when it argues, it doesn't necessarily want to rage, and Mars would like to rage. So here we're seeing this whole axis of your 5th house and your 11th house. And I think that's important because the 11th house is where your hopes and your dreams lie. And that's the sign of Cancer for you. So there could very well be, and this influence has been going on since October, the end of October, goes all the way through mid-November, and even a little bit longer, as Mars goes from feeling underwater a bit and having to deal with other people's emotions into the fire sign of Leo. And as Pluto moves into Aquarius, it becomes ever so slightly less emotional, becomes more forward thinking, more Aquarian like. So this little battle between these two is not going to be over for a bit. So mindful also in the overlay of the idea that Cancer rules home, hearth, and country, you know, the traditions, the origins of your roots. And in its most pinnacle energy, Capricorn rules government, authority, repression, the things that trickle down as a result of authority. So this is super powerful. And, you know, here we are 4 days, 5 days before the election, and things are really heating up. We also see a continuing trine to Uranus, which is going to liberate us in some way, a continued sextile. This will go on for a decade, over a decade. This will go on for, I think, 4 or 5 years at least. As these planets change signs, they stay in this configuration, which is supportive to really come at our human journeys through our soul's eyes versus coming through our physical eyes. Again, Uranus is going to take us out into the future, out into space, where we start to realize that we aren't the only critters on the planet. I mean, in the universe. We also see a nice sextile between Pluto and Mercury. Now, you know, Mercury in Scorpio is always going to be a very deep and intense thinker, have very interesting interests, detective stories, blood, guts, criminal crime, you know, the occult. But it also is an opportunity for Mercury really to hone through understanding the deep psychology that rules humans, how fear, control, money, power makes people do things that they may not normally do, or you know. So I think that there's a real opportunity for through something very tense coming to an understanding, and then we plant the seeds for the opposite experience during that new moon. Okay, now let's go over to, I'm going to go to the 4th. This is the day before the United States election, and I'm going to go to 3 p.m. because what I'm going to do is we'll see that Mercury has moved into Sagittarius. This is a complete change of energy for Mercury, because we go from these brooding thoughts, this deep psychological sort of, you know, almost, you know, there's an obsessive energy around the scorpionic energy. And when Mercury's in a bad place, Mercury can like chew on something. Now things have gotten a little bit lighter, you know, things have broadened. There's a potential for bigger philosophies. Now I know Mercury is not in favor here, in detriment, but again, there's a symbiotic relationship between these axes. They offer more benefit than they do destruction, and it's a matter of balance and marrying the two energies. So I think this is important. We see that Venus is in an opposition here to Jupiter. And I think that that's really powerful, because right now they're both wealth planets. And I think that in the big scheme of things, the money is going to be a big darn deal. Our finances, our ability to thrive in our lives. Sagittarius is your 4th house. Gemini is your 9th house. I'm sorry, your 10th house. And so here we're seeing this energy of, okay, so Gemini is your 10th house. 10th house is the most public house. It's the house of leadership. It's a house of career. We see Sagittarius being your 4th house. With Venus there, you're going to want to feel secure in your home. You're going to want to have nice things. And this Jupiter retrograde could have you really rethinking things. It could also reflect legal matters. Jupiter rules legal matters. It rules what I believe are the three branches of the United States government, the JOD, executive and legislative branches. It also, we've got this in the 10th house now. So we're looking at potentially leaders of our country and how that might affect our ability to expand monetarily. There's a lot of trepidation going on. Will things be eroded? Now, Chiron is offering individual thought. Aries is your 8th house of transformation. It's another house of money. And, you know, I just feel like this is a time to be okay, like things are happening outside of us, but we are all co-creators within the environment. So even when things are a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, when we individualize and allow for our own power of thought, our, you know, the idea that we are giving life to thoughts are things, and they create a magnet that bring in the resources we need, things will really start to open up. So, and being more aware of your emotions, you know what I mean? This moment in time, the moon and Venus being conjunct, could have you really wanting to feel that expansion, and yet at the same time, not sure if it's going to be able to play itself out. Venus is going to enter Capricorn on the 11th. And I think that this is where Venus really becomes a practical lady. She is all about creating structures. Where'd she go? Here she is at 0 degrees. And she wants to create a sense of security, wealth, comfort, and ease. She's not sexy here, you know, but she works well with the Virgo energy. This is a house that trines you. Capricorn is your 5th house of children, of your personal pleasure and fun. It's the performer, the child, it's your high school experience as well, you know. So there's this romantic kind of naivete attached to the 5th house. Now, while Venus moves into Capricorn, it becomes sobering from Sagittarius, where the passions and the expansion of Sagittarius suddenly become the reality of how will I do that? How will I implement that? And this is where I think it's kind of tough for Virgo, because you're having a blind side to your action spot, right? Here's Mars in Leo, that's your 12th house. And for me, this is where the action becomes 12th house related, where I start going into meditations, where I start paying attention to the idea that before I start action, I need to align energetically. And most of the earth signs don't necessarily connect that way. They think action produces results. And that's why we see a square to the south node, and we see a square to the north node and to Neptune, because it might be difficult for Venus at this moment to take action based on a spiritual principle, when Capricorn energy is asking for hard work and endurance and not really into the airy fairies, as they say. I think that's kind of funny. Okay, now we also see that Mercury, as I said in the beginning of the video, will go retrograde at the end of the month. Mercury is going to go over the great attractor at 14 degrees of Sagittarius. This is a point within the Shapley cluster that allows the human to experience their mind as a vessel or a tool of the universe, and where through focused thought and being aware of the vibration of your focused thought. Am I doing it in fear? Am I doing it in obligation? Am I doing that thought in lack? Or am I doing it in expansion? Again, this could be a growing opposition between Mercury and Jupiter, but Mercury here has a little bit of an edge because Mercury is near the great attractor. Both are in detriment, but here, I think, because Mercury is going to get 3 opportunities to revisit this energy. We're going to see first on the 13th, Mercury will be exact, the great attractor at 14 degrees of Sagittarius. It will be there on the 5th of December, retrograde, and then direct on the 27th of December. Any planets you have in Sagittarius that are within 5 to 10 degrees of 14 degrees of Sagittarius are tools for you to use to take advantage of this energy. So this is a very powerful dynamic, and something that hopefully we all start practicing a little bit more, because it will help us when the regular world is all falling apart. Oh, did I say that out loud? Oops. Okay, let's go now to the 15th. This is where we will see two events on one day. I'm going to go first to the full moon in, hold on, it's at 1:28 p.m. It's a full moon in Taurus. Taurus is your ninth house of beliefs, of expansion, of commerce and business. Using Taurus energy over that, that's with your own skills, your own voice, and your willingness to plant and watch something grow. There's going to be an illumination of some kind. Something is going to come. It's an epiphany. Boom, it pops. It's an awakening. It might come from something that feels a little bit unexpected, but it doesn't feel too bad to me, because even though Pluto's involved and Neptune, it's favorable aspects. So it feels a little less shocking and a little bit more of a aha moment that provides a tool. We also, okay, so those of you that are not aware, the full moon is the biggest, is the brightest phase of the moon. It's known as the culmination of a cycle, but frankly, I kind of think of it as the beginning of a cycle, because through whatever illumination, whatever I've grown, whatever I've planted, I'm harvesting and then moving into a new phase. So I guess endings and beginnings are kind of one coin, two sides. Now we see also that Saturn here has moved direct in Pisces. And again, Pisces is your seventh house of committed partnerships, both in business and in personal, but it's also the house where we create harmony, peace, diplomacy. It's the house where people who are policemen and community service workers and people who, in the justice system, that clerks in the court and the lawyers, where balance is purported. So here, I think that this retrograde now has given you information. And the information at this point is, we don't know exactly how the squares here, how it will be implemented. See, we have this illumination through the full moon. We have an epiphany through the full moon, but the action taken doesn't feel actually solid to me, hence the square and basically a T-square to Saturn. It's kind of a loose thing, but to me, at the same time, the focal point is to go back into meditation, into my spiritual practices. 12th degree is Pisces. Saturn is hard work and endurance and reward. And then I think I'm going to have inspirations. Mercury is going to host those as Mercury moves forward to about 22 degrees and then moves backward again. So that's pretty fabulous and a little stressful at the same time. But that's where everything fabulous comes from. It's kind of interesting when people want to escape challenges or the uphill climb, they're really kind of escaping their own empowerment and their own opportunity to feel exhilarated and to feel a sense of achievement. So I always want to have an opportunity to exercise and stretch the muscle of who I am. Now, this is the other thing that I think is so fascinating, because I'm a numbers gal, right? On the 19th, note that this full moon is at 1:28 p.m. This reduces down to an 11, illuminating my thoughts, illuminating that my thoughts are things they're manifesting very quickly. And this is also supporting evidence for my thinking that this Jupiter and Mercury opposition is very powerful right now. And it's T-square to Saturn is important, because the human thought isn't going to work. It's either too small or too big. And I need to go back in meditation and allow spirit to illuminate me through some sort of slowing down or some sort of diligent behavior. Because on the 19th, we see Pluto re-enter Aquarius at 1:28 p.m. There's that 11 again. It just screams at me all over the place. I can't help it. So I really think that there's something going on. That epiphany that we were seeing, is being somehow supported as Pluto starts its 20-year journey through Aquarius, which again is your sixth house Virgo, sixth house of work and health. And I want to offer this too, because I think this is a real opportunity for Virgo to be a little bit more aware of how worry This is the whole axis between Jupiter and Mercury. Worry is a form of prayer that doesn't serve you. So you can chew on something, you can think about it, you can muse about it, you can hypothesize about it, you can try to plan it out. But the human experience never really, what do they say? That's God's laughing while humans are making plans or something like that. So Pluto's going to really, rather than, affect potentially your physical health, which it could, depending upon your chart, depending upon your own personal habits, but it could also completely rebirth you and completely fine tune that mind of yours into such razor focus that you don't even know how much service you are to others because you're manifesting like this. And it's a process, and it truly is a process. All right. Let's move on to the sun moving into Sagittarius. That happens on the 21st, but I'm going to just pop onto the 22nd because I left it at 1:28 p.m. This is what I want to say, because the sun moving into Sagittarius is not necessarily a significant transit at this moment. But what I do think is as the sun moves forward and we're starting to see Mercury slow down to retrograde at 22 degrees, then there's going to be a crossover between the two. And this is somewhere where I believe that the ego is highlighted and the way the mind runs amok a little bit, because this could be something for Virgo that's illuminated from your childhood. It could be some way that either your siblings, because that's Mercury, your childhood experience, Sagittarius is your fourth house, something could be coming up that illuminates a contrasting experience. And that maybe on some level, whether you realize it or not, is the very, the beginning of the ingredients to unleash you from something that's tethered you to a smaller version of yourself. So I think this is really powerful. I'm not going to talk too much about the Mercury retrograde because I'm going to do a separate video on that. But Mercury will retrograde on the 25th. I'll quickly go to that date. Let me go a little later in the day. Mercury hasn't retrograded yet. Let me go a little later in the day. So great to be fabulously flawed. Okay, so the 22nd degree is rather interesting because it's a rather challenging degree. It's a Capricorn degree and can often be considered a kill or be killed degree. It's a Plutonian degree. So here, I think that as we retrograde at 22 degrees, some of the small-minded things that have gripped you from your childhood could potentially transform from caterpillar to butterfly. The rising of the phoenix, per se. The imprint of who you are will always be there, but are you tethered to a lower version of that imprint? No. And that's Pluto's freeing you and unleashing you as it moves through your sixth house. Now, this Mercury retrograde will start on November 25th, 2024. It will go until December 15th, 2024. It will start at 22 degrees of Sagittarius, and it will go all the way back to 6 degrees of Sagittarius. It will go over the great attractor 3 times. The great attractor is at 14 degrees of Sagittarius. Any planets that you have in your natal chart near there is a really fortuitous thing. And the planet's characteristics are a tool for how you can attract the energies that you need. That's a 5 to 10 degree orb, I believe, off the top of my head. So we're going to see Mercury exact 14 degrees on the 13th of November. We will see it retrograde on the 5th of December. So it'll hit 14 degrees on the 5th of December, and then moving direct again on the 27th of December, it'll hit that 14 degrees. So that's a nice chunk of time, not only to use the Mercury retrograde to review, relax, rest, but also to recalibrate, and to strategize. We are going to end the month on the 30th with another new moon. And this one is in Sagittarius. I'm going to move to the 30th. So we started the month with a new moon, and we end the month with a new moon. This one is at 10:21 p.m. And I will do a separate video on this more extensively. But the thing I think I always find interesting is the patterns of the moons. The beginning of the month, we started with Scorpio, new moon at 9 degrees. Now we have a new moon in Sagittarius at 9 degrees. the ninth degree is the Sagittarian degree. So now I'm planting the seeds for new beliefs, for new opportunities potentially in business. Now, again, we talked about how Sagittarius is your fourth house, but now you're rewriting how you step up through that energy. The fourth house is not just the home that raised you, but it's the home you create. It's also how you self-care, meaning nurture yourself, how you work and use your intuitions. So this could be very expansive. I think Mars is offering bravery. There's this great energy of Leo, which is your 12th house. So there's something about being brave, about allowing yourself to stand as a leader versus the servant, which you're used to. We do see a strong square between Saturn during this new moon, because you probably can't see how it's going to happen. You can't, have a real grip on maybe the process at that time. Pisces is your seventh house again. So this, there could also be some conflict between the things that you want to create for yourself and the things that are required of you in your partnerships. The Sagittarian energy rules writing, publishing, branding, and marketing. And as I move that energy into modern times, it's content creating and influencing on the social platforms. So you may find some conflict between your personal endeavors and whatever your family obligations are, but I think you can figure it out. That's what I'm trying to say. If anybody can, it's a Virgo. You can figure out the process of it. Okay, I think that's all I really have for the month of November. Let me stop sharing my screen. These are pivotal times, and I know we've been talking about an ascension for decades, really, but the ascension is not literally walking to somewhere else. It is an awareness. It is an awareness that my thoughts are things, my choices are my karma. And as Pluto moves into Aquarius, we really are going to be able to express our genius. We're going to feel that sense of individual, unique expression, that 2.0 version, and we'll find commonality as others find their version. And the villainization of people because of mundane things like, the color of their eyes or the color of their hair, etc. And I'll use very mundane examples. I don't need to tell y'all. That's all going to kind of slip out. Because right now, humanity is being tasked to find acceptance within itself, because we're headed out into space where they're going to be very different looking than we are, not just skin and eyes. Okay, that got a little off there, but I'm not kind of that way. All right, my Virgos, thank you so much for watching the November video. I also did a November love and money tarot card reading for you. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. I did a separate video for the Mars and Pluto opposition. That's pretty intense. So you might want to check that out and come back next month for more fun content. We're just creating. So I'll see you soon. Thanks so much. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff.